All right, welcome into the video. This is Third and Wrong. Just your boy here, Dillon, today, and we're going to be talking about the Colts. I'm actually going to start calling this Dillon with the Colts, as you'll see right here, and I'm excited about that. It's a good little pun for you guys. But this video, we're going to talk about the head coaching vacancy for the Indianapolis Colts. It's a big deal. It has a lot of implications for this offseason, so stay tuned to that. But before we get into it all, please drop a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out a bunch. We're a small channel just getting started up here and hoping to give good content to people that want it. So please do that real quick, and then we'll get into this video. All right, welcome back. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the Colts head coaching vacancy today. It's a big topic, like I said, has a lot of implications for the season. So what I'm going to talk about is mainly how the Colts got into this position, the two head coaches that we have this season, and then I'm also going to talk about some of the candidates that the Colts have looked into. I'm going to give you my top 5 and how I think the Colts should select their next head coach. So with getting into that, how we got here, right? So this is just a few weeks after the Colts had their season ended. It started off really rough with Frank Reich as our head coach, and it continued to be that way even though we made changes like firing an offensive coordinator, firing Frank Reich, and hiring Jeff Saturday, who has had no experience as the head coach in the NFL, no coaching experience in the NFL, and his only coaching experience came from a high school team, and I don't know if they even had a winning record. So obviously not the best record, not the best resume for a coach, but for the way I understood that move happening was allowing someone to come from the outside to give input and just learn what's going on in the coaching room, someone that Jim Irsay could trust. Because there's just a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of rumors, this and that, a lot of people blaming this and that. And I think having someone like Jeff Saturday come in, feel what's going on in the room and be able to report back to Irsay and Ballard and say, hey, this is what's wrong. This is, these are some issues that I'm seeing. So that's what I took Jeff Saturday's interim position being, and also a tryout, because they like the guy. They want to find room for him in the organization. He wasn't taking an offensive line coaching position before. He was making a lot of money on ESPN. You don't have to go in and slave away being an offensive line coach, but given the head coaching position, it was something that he had to take. So I don't blame him there. Obviously, it didn't work wonders. It didn't throw us into the playoff race or anything like that. But I believe it gave us a lot of information, which is the important part. Now going forward, we got a lot of candidates that the Colts have looked into. I believe there's been a total of 15. There hasn't been really anyone ruled out except for Ben Johnson of the Lions, and he took himself out of all the teams' consideration, essentially. And so we're left with a lot of candidates, and this is what was promised by Chris Ballard, is they're going to take their time. They're going to go through a lot of different candidates, so that way they're not, just jumping on, who's hot and who's, just promising the world. So I like that approach. I'm going to bring you my top 5. But first, I do have to say something. The reason why I'm making this video, we haven't done a lot in a long time, but I needed to get something off my chest because, for one, I just find Colts Twitter, and really any NFL fan base might feel this way with their fan base's Twitter, but there's just a lot of people that think they can just solve the Colts overnight. And I'm sitting here, I'm expressing my opinions. Obviously, I think I have correct opinions. So what? I don't think that my opinions are better than everyone else's. I just think that it's another opinion. But what I see on Twitter that is just really frustrating for me to see is people saying that the Colts need to get an offensive coordinator for their head coach. They need to get a young offensive-minded coach to pair with a rookie quarterback. they need to do X, Y, and Z. And it's usually just hiring people that have success on offense, essentially. Those are good traits to have. I don't think that's wrong to have someone that is just good with offense. That's not a bad thing. The Colts, say what you want about Frank Reich, but they've had a good offense for a while. This year obviously did not really work out with that, but with churning over veteran quarterback after veteran quarterback, the Colts have had a relatively good offense the whole time. What we missed, and what I think a lot of people don't talk about, is that Frank Reich was okay with being underdogs. You know what I mean? He is okay with having to fight back the rest of the season. Being a week 8 and being well below 500 and saying, okay, let's go race to the end and make the playoffs. That's Frank Reich. That's where he's comfortable. He's known for having, I think, the third largest comeback now, after Andrew Luck and the Cowboys. He has that mentality of being able to come from behind and win games. That's not bad to have either, to have that ability. But what I do not like, and what I've kind of realized with Frank Reich and almost with Chuck Pagano, is they are very willing to, say, all right, guys, let's just, get better next week or whatever. And just more of a positive coach rather than someone that has demands and can back them up. That's where I'm looking at these 5 coaches in my top 5. Is I want someone that not a coordinator. I want a leader that can rally the locker room. So I'm going to start with someone that I don't think is necessarily going to be our best option, but someone that is in-house, and that's Bubba Ventrone. Bubba Ventrone, if you don't know, is our special teams coordinator, and he came from the Patriot system. He played there as a player. He was hired on as a special teams assistant and got hired on with the Colts a few years ago. And he has made our special teams unit one of the best in the league and is consistently a top 5 unit. Just being able to control your players and being a coordinator is a very good trait, like I've talked about. But he also leads, and he has a very good way of leading. I think he'll take this team and just kind of kick them into shape and light a fire under the butt, which is what we really need as a team. Bubba Ventrone, I don't think is necessarily going to be our best option, mainly because those special team coordinators work with both sides of the ball, and both sides of the ball with the players and the coaches. He's still young in coaching, and I would like to see more experience from him first. I'm afraid we're going to lose him to another team, and we're going to have to kind of restart with finding another special teams coordinator, which is not like the end of the world, but I think that's going to be someone that we're going to miss, just because he does want to be a head coach, and I think another team will give him that shot if we don't. After that, I'm going to talk about Brian Callahan. So I pulled up his Wikipedia page here because I'm just doing research and kind of seeing what the resume is here. And this is a very popular candidate, mainly because Peyton Manning has vouched for him, and he has done a really good job with the Bengals offense. And though I don't think it would be a bad hire, I do see him as a coordinator and not necessarily a head coach right now. Mainly because it seems like he's not necessarily the leader of the offense. He's just running a very good offense. So he has had experience coaching with the Broncos with Peyton Manning. He also went to the Lions, the Raiders, and has been with the Bengals since 2019. And that team has really grown into a successful offense. There's a lot of reasons for that. Getting a number 1 overall pick with Joe Burrow definitely helps that. Also getting Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Mixon in that squad does help that a lot too. So not taking anything from Brian Callahan. I think if we do get him, we would have a good offense. The thing is, with a locker room, you need to win the locker room behind everyone, not just the offensive side. So I would like to see more experience out of Brian Callahan before I put him as my number 1 guy. After that, I'm going to talk about these top 3 are people that I would be happy with. Raheem Morris is more of a 1C for me. He has experience as a head coach, which is very useful. He coached with the Buccaneers before, but he's been a coach for over 20 years, so a lot of experience, and he has a great rapport with players. He's with the Rams right now in LA, and a lot of good talk about him, but I think he has that leadership quality that I'm looking for, or that the Colts should be looking for. And he's coming off, having a good defense. He has experience in the playoffs. Obviously, they didn't have a great year here, but you can chalk it up to injuries to certain players, and obviously missing their left tackle, Andrew Whitworth. I think that was a big key there in Los Angeles. So that's Raheem Morris. He's my number 3, but I would call him a 1C. 1B is D'Amico Ryans, mainly because I don't think he's going to select the Colts. I think he's going to go to Houston. He played there as a player for a long time, and I think they're going to choose him over this next guy that I'm going to bring up. But D'Amico Ryans is a great leader. He's been in that 49ers defense the whole time that he's been coaching, so he really knows that system, and that 49ers defense is a very good defense. And I do think that leaves room for Gus Bradley to stay as a coordinator and be able to work with the system there and stuff like that. We would just need to be able to find another offensive coordinator if we go with D'Amico Ryans. But the coach that I do want, that I think might be the best option here, is Mike Kafka. He is familiar with Chris Ballard. He came from Kansas City before he went to New York. And the reason why I like Mike Kafka a lot is he was with Patrick Mahomes when he won his MVP in his rookie sophomore season, and when he won the Super Bowl MVP in the following year in 2019, I believe. And he also moved on to the New York Giants this last year, the New York Giants. And they had a quick turnaround on offense with no real skill players outside of Saquon Barkley. And they showed a tremendous improvement with just the same players from the year before, essentially, if not worse players, because they got rid of players. So I like Mike Kafka as an offensive coordinator. I think he shows real impact with how he's coaching. Brian Callahan, I wouldn't say he's more of an impactful coordinator. I think he understands offense very well, which is not bad. But if we're drafting a quarterback in the first 4 picks, which I assume we're going to be doing, I think Mike Kafka might be the best person to have a quarterback under his tutelage. If we're looking for someone to kind of build the franchise quarterback of the future, Mike Kafka is who I would prefer. Brian Callahan kind of is in that same boat, but I think Joe Burrow created Joe Burrow more than Brian Callahan created Joe Burrow. Whereas I think Mike Kafka actually has a huge impact on the quarterbacks that he is associated with, and I think he will be able to help our next quarterback of the future the most. He also has a lot of experience. He has ties with Chris Ballard, like I said. And I think he makes the most amount of sense for where we're going in the future. So that's who my top 5 is. Now, who I think the Colts are going to take is Brian Callahan or Mike Kafka. I think those are the 2 guys in the lead right here. I don't think Jeff Saturday is in too much contention for head coach, but I do think he is brought on to continue being a liaison, right? What's the word? Just an expert, that they bring in to help on the side. Or he could potentially get moved into the front office where he has, the ability to help the offensive line throughout his career. That's something that I did notice. The Colts did have a better offensive line from when Jeff Saturday got there. And Bernhard Raimann did improve dramatically with Jeff Saturday helping them. So I think there's merit to keeping Jeff Saturday, whether that is a head coach assistant or some sort of title where he has impact on the franchise, the organization, and more importantly have impact on the offensive line and get that great mind, be able to work with our players. So that kind of wraps up what I see here. if you have different opinions, obviously share that with us. That's something that we like to interact with. We will comment on basically anyone's comment. If we don't, we'll at least like it and favorite it. So definitely let us know. Also, drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps us out a bunch, and we'll see you on the next video.